Ladies and gentlemen, I am here who is with a man who is coming with us straight from Tromaville, president of Troma Entertainment and creator of the Toxic Avenger, Mr. Lloyd Kaufman. How are you doing today?
Well, greetings from Tromaville, Jerry Roth. I've been making movies for almost 50 years, and finally, I get a call from Mr. Jerry Roth. This is the highlight of my 50 years of making movies. So
I
this is what a moment this is.
I appreciate that. Now that does remind me, you have been getting more accolade as you are nearing 50 years in
Isn't
movies.
is isn't Accolade a town in Australia,
That might well be,
or is
but
that Lemonade? Oh no, Adelaide. Oh yeah, Adelaide. I get it.
now
That joke. I bet you that joke went over your head, right?
no.
Yes, it did. You didn't get it. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, sorry.
That's fine.
All
Um,
right. We were
so
talking about accolades.
yes, so how does it feel that after almost 50 years, you are finally getting the recognition that me and other fans of your film company feel like you deserve?
Well, one isn't in this for accolades. We are underground artists, and we're motivated and inspired by the art form, the making of moving images, and that's really what it's all about. And we're inspired by our fans who have been so supportive of Troma over the 40 years. This is Troma's 40th year, and my 50th. And the fans all over the world have really been the ones to keep us going because we've had total freedom, and it's only because our fans support us, and not just our fans, mind you, Jerry, but our air conditioners too. We're very grateful to the air conditioner.
That is true, although I would assume your number one fan would be Sergeant Kabuki Man's.
Well, Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD is, in fact, he's got a new podcast in the works. Kabuki's Cocktail Corner. We've shot a season of that, and I'm not sure when it debuts, but I think around May 31st, which is Kabuka Memorial Day here in the United States. Where are you calling from?
I am calling from Illinois.
Okay, that's not in Australia. What am I talking
So, when you got started with Troma, you guys did sexy comedies, you and Michael Hirsch.
Yes, we did. We did indeed. We did the raunchy. We got onto the raunchy. In those days, it was considered not a good thing to combine genres, especially sex and anything else. Sex was considered something to encourage the raincoat sales of raincoats. And we knew that Shakespeare had made some raunchy comedies, and we got into that area with Squeeze Play, Waitress, Stuck on You, First Turn On, and we did it before Porky's. So suddenly we broke the rules and profited from it. And if there are any people out there who are not bored by what I'm saying, who are still listening to this bullshit, you break the rules, and that very often makes you rich. Although not in my case. But Squeeze Play was a big hit before, those movies came out kind of before the Animal House Porky's type thing, and we did very well for about 10 minutes. And then, of course, the major studios started making the same kind of movies, but as you know, the major studios are evil. They don't play fair. They use good actors and good scripts, and that's not right. So we had to move into another area, and that's when the Toxic Avenger was born. We decided to go into the horror area, but keep mixing in comedy, sex, satire, Nazis. Try to mix up the genres, like a Cuisinart of a genre. Is there such a thing as a Cuisinart anymore? Does that instrument still exist?
I think
Cuisinart?
I think it does, but I've only seen it at secondhand shops.
Yeah, well, that's where you've seen most of our VHS cassettes too, probably. In any event, we're sort of our movies are like Cuisinarts of genre.
I was going to say with Romeo and Juliet, it was more like going back to the sexy comedy, other than the violence and car crashes that I'm sure Shakespeare wanted but never had.
Well, there is monster in that. Actually, Romeo and Juliet has everything. It's got suspense and monster, and it's in iambic pentameter, and it's got hot lesbian scenes and car crashes, special effects, makeup, transformations. It's a mélange. A potage de genre. It's and by the way, never mind all that bullshit. But guess who wrote Romeo and Juliet?
I know who it is, but I'm going to let you say it.
Well, the person who wrote that Romeo and Juliet was none other than Steven Spielberg himself, who went on to write such great movies as AI and Tiny Toons. And now Spielberg owes everything to Troma. Or did I get it right? No, I don't think so. Who actually James Gunn wrote Romeo and Juliet, and he wrote it in iambic pentameter, which drove him crazy. But it's one of Troma's best movies, and as you know, James Gunn just wrote and directed the number one success of the year, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Uncle Lloyd has about 2 seconds of a very fine cameo therein.
I went to see that movie in a theater, and what was really funny was when you came on, I just started laughing and cheering, and everybody else just stared at me.
Yeah, I get that all the time. There's in every group of 400 people, there will be one person who knows who Lloyd Kaufman is, and that person will get a kick out of seeing me in a movie like that. And everybody has told me the exact same thing, that the rest of the audience is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And that's Lloyd Kaufman. Unfortunately, the 399 other people in the cinema do not know who Lloyd Kaufman is. But they know the Toxic Avenger, that's for sure. And when you mention that Lloyd Kaufman created the Toxic Avenger, then they start getting pretty impressed.
I've actually known more people who know you from Sergeant Kabuki Man, oddly enough.
Well, Illinois has got a lot of kabuki people there, kabuki theater. Illinois has a great kabuki tradition, as I'm sure you're aware of. Are you in Chicago? Where do you live?
I'm in Macomb, which is about 3.5, 4 hours from Chicago.
Oh, well, Macomb was a hotbed of kabuki theater. So I'm not surprised that Kabuki Man, Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD, is so popular there.
I'm actually a big fan of Troma, and I have been for years.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Thank you. That makes six of us. Now there are six.
one of the
Now we are six by A. Milne.
one of the first times I actually saw a Troma film, I was supposed to do a report on Romeo and Juliet. Somebody put the wrong disc behind the Romeo and Juliet at the video store. I don't know if those exist anymore.
Oh, that's funny. That's terrific. So you pulled out Romeo and Juliet with Leslie Howard and Norma Shearer. Which Romeo and Juliet were you looking for?
It was supposed to be the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and I can't remember who the other one is.
Oh, the shit Romeo and
Yep.
Juliet. Okay, yeah. Well, you're lucky you got Romeo and Juliet. It's a much better film, and it's much better acted, and it's much closer to Shakespeare's true intention than the sugary one with Leo. Unfortunately, Leo and Claire Danes did not understand Shakespeare. The actor, I think Patrick Stewart, who played the friar or the priest or the religious person in that Romeo and Juliet, he got it. He was good. But the other ones, Will Keenan and Jane Jensen and Debbie Rochon and the people in Romeo and Juliet knew much more about Shakespeare than the people in Romeo and Juliet. And what's interesting, or at least to me, if there's anybody listening, is that when we finished Romeo and Juliet about 6 months before what's his name completed Romeo and Juliet, the guy from Australia. What the hell's his name? You know who directed the Romeo and Juliet?
Was it Buzz Larman?
But yeah, that's it. Bars Lerman. Bars Lerman. Yeah, and we finished ours first, but the theaters wouldn't play it because they said Shakespeare was not commercial, and that Shakespeare wouldn't work. But then when Bars Lerman came out with his Romeo and Juliet, and it was a huge hit, suddenly theaters started calling us from all over the country, and they wanted to play Romeo and Juliet, and indeed they did, and got very good reviews in the New York Times and many other of the media back in 1996.
And after Romeo and Juliet, you had another, I think, success, at least as far as the people I know really love it, with Terra Firma.
Terra Firma is my most personal film, and it's very closely linked to the book All I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger, which was my first book. And of course, that book that I wrote was written by James Gunn. James Gunn wrote the first book that I wrote. That's another reason why All I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger became a bestseller, because James Gunn made me seem not boring, which I'm not doing a very good job of at this very minute.
Oh, no, I don't think you're boring at all. I think this stuff is fascinating, as do most
Oh,
people.
thank you. Oh, good. All right, thanks.
No, no problem. And Terra Firma also had a documentary with it in the 2-disc edition. That was Farts of Darkness, I believe.
Yes, Farts of Darkness was in many film festivals, and we've done a number of feature-length documentaries about the making of our various movies. And right now we're editing behind-the-scenes movie of Return to Nukem High Volumes 1 and Volumes 2, and that should be also a very, very... If you're a film student or any fan of filmmaking, or films themselves, the Troma behind-the-scenes documentaries are wonderful, and you can see them absolutely free on Troma. Troma's coffee black with skim milk, and thank you. So you can see them on the Troma movie channel, where we have many free movies right now. Troma Movies on YouTube has about 200 free movies, among which are Farts of Darkness, the making of Terra Firma, the Apocalypse Soon, which is the making of Citizen Toxie, and of course the Poultry in Motion, Truth is Stranger Than Chicken, which is the behind-the-scenes feature-length documentary of Poultrygeist. And now we are working on the feature-length behind-the-scenes of Return to Nukem High, which is a 2-part movie, Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think my best work. And by the way, if you're interested in how Troma sells its movies, and we made a movie in 2002, a documentary called All the Love You Can, about the Cannes Film Festival and what Troma does at the Cannes Film Festival and how we operate there, and how we throw blood on people and run around naked and have diapers and filled with chocolate pudding. All sorts of valuable information that every film student and lover of cinema will want to know. Bigger than life itself, but small and intimate enough to touch each and every one of us. And you can see all these movies to which I'm referring on YouTube Troma Movies channel, which has got about 100,000 subscribers. And we're running out of room, so you better subscribe fast. Anybody listening to this?
That's where. Oh, good.
Not by. If they are, they're not anymore.
That's where I watched All the Love You Can. Actually.
Oh, good. Did you like it? Be honest.
I did like it. There was one person I didn't like, but other than that was fine.
That person was Lloyd Kaufman.
No, you were fine.
Oh, okay.
You were fine, and the other very attractive Gyno-Americans were very fine as well.
Well, I think that all of these documentaries that we've been talking about, if any film students, I think they would get more out of watching those documentaries than a year in, USC or NYU film school. You pay $50,000 a year now to go to a film school. I think the Troma documentaries behind the scenes are probably more instructive and more beneficial to somebody who's learning about film than actual year of film school. Also, if you just happen to be a movie fan, they're fascinating because they really show you the truth of what's going on behind the scenes, how Troma makes these movies, and how difficult it is to make the movies. And also, it's certainly no puff piece. It shows that I'm a major asshole for most of the time. But what can you do? You have to be an asshole. If you're going to be an artist, you have to some extent, especially if you're going to be underground and have total control and be an auteur director. you've got to be an asshole from time to time. At least I do. And rather than cover it up, we lay it all out in these documentaries. But I agree with you. Terra Firma is a great film. Every time I see it, I always say to myself, I can't believe we made this film. It is so crazy. It is so out there and so personal that I'm just amazed that it actually made a few bucks.
And with the documentaries, you mentioned All the Love You Can. Isn't there a sequel in the works called oh, I can't think of Occupy
Occupy
Can?
Can. Occupy Can. Yes. Occupy Can is actually being called Sincerely the Troma Team, Occupy Can. And this is a sequel, a follow up 10 years later. We went to Cannes as we do every year in 2013, 2012, which was 10 years after All the Love You Can, to see if the situation had changed or to see how independent art is treated at Cannes, et cetera, et cetera. Except that this project has expanded into a much more ambitious film and one Charlotte Kaufman, who played Audrey in Terra Firma, the mute child, Audrey in Terra Firma. Charlotte Kaufman is directing and editing the Sincerely the Troma Team, Occupy Can. And she is working with her sister Lisbeth Kaufman and Lily Hayes Kaufman. Their three mutant Kaufman kids are working on editing now. I think they've pretty much shot. They just finished a day with. They had Stan Lee and Ron Jeremy in the same day about a week ago. I think they're pretty well finished with filming, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big project, much bigger than what we intended originally. And we had crowdsourced it for a much simpler film, but now it's become much bigger and it's costing a lot more money than we raised.
Well, I'm glad to hear that that's going well, other than the it's costing more.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is costing more, but it's going to be really good. It's going to be a really good documentary. And again, it's the unvarnished truth, and that's what makes our documentary so interesting. There's no, like those HBO behind the scenes of, they're just so scripted and so, it's like Ben Affleck, right? Ben Affleck went on this bullshit show on public radio, public TV about ancestry, right?
Yeah.
So his ancestors were slave owners. So what? He tried to take that out of the show, right?
Mm.
And the asshole host, the asshole jerk who is the host, let him do it. The jerk who wrote Roots, who's appears to be very anti-Semitic and a real shit. He let Ben Affleck push him around and edit the truth, right? That's not what that's not the way public TV should be. But anyway, we don't edit the truth on those behind the scenes documentaries. It's all laid out there, and you see how difficult and how discombobulated and how loyal and idealistic and sincere and sublime the Troma team is.
And now you are one of the few filmmakers who has actually remade a film and made a sequel and made it work with Return to Nukem High Volume 1.
Yeah, we got lucky because there are many people now in the mainstream who either worked for Troma or grew up with Troma because we've been around now almost three generations. And when I go to Comic-Con San Diego or Dragon Con or any of the pop culture conventions, I get children, teenagers, the couples, people my age. I get three generations of people who come to the Troma booth and buy our DVDs or ask for my signature, and I don't charge for my signature, and I don't charge for photos. But we got lucky. A man at Starz, STARZ, which is part of one of those devil worshipping international media conglomerates, he was a Troma fan, and he wanted to remake Class of Nukem High. And he said if I would do it for a low budget, under $500,000, he'd let me direct it and have total control over it. So that's what we did, and I think it's our best movie. And now we finished the second half. We still have a little bit of filming to do, but the first half, as I mentioned, premiered at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and then played a couple of hundred theaters and has had some pretty decent distribution around the country. And now we are editing and still filming a little more of Volume 2, the second half of the movie. So it's going to be a big deal. It'd be like Kill Bill, like Tarantino did with Kill Bill. Actually, he was the one who told me back a long time ago at the Sitges Film Festival in Spain that I ought to do something that's more ambitious because there's going to be so many, because of digital revolution and the coming. He saw the future that there are going to be more and more low budget movies that I better do something that stands out. So I saw him do Volume 1 and 2, and I said, okay, I get it. I'll do Volume 1 and 2, except that our budgets are 1% of Quentin Tarantino's budget.
That is true. How is your knee doing, by the way?
It's doing very well. Thank you. Thanks for asking. I'll be back on my knees, I think, in another couple of months.
And
I had just so your fans can tell, I had a skiing accident at Troma Dance in Salt Lake, Troma Dance, which used to take place in Park City, Utah, during the so-called Sundance Festival. And I had a skiing accident, and I didn't take care of my knee. And so I had to have a total knee replacement, which basically they amputate your leg and they remove the knee, the real knee, and they put in a titanium kryptonite knee or something. I don't know. They put in some kind of bullshit, some sort of metallic thing. But it's like an amputation. So it's a big, big thing to recover from. So it's taking a long time. But thanks for asking.
And then the other question I have that I know my fans and Troma fans want to know is how's Joe Flyshaker doing? Or if you can update on anybody on how he's doing.
Well, I've not spoken to him for a couple of months, but he wanted to move from his rehab hospital to a better rehab hospital, and we helped him raise some money, and my wife and I contributed to it. He did a GoFundMe thing, and I sent him some money. I don't know if he got into the better hospital. He's still trying to lose more weight, and he told me that he will be in. By the way, you are getting this as an exclusive update. He is in. He will be seen in Return to Nukem High Volume 2. So he is back on screen. And he said that once he has to lose. I think he said once he loses. In Citizen Toxie, his character was called Lard Ass, right? Mm-hmm. He was Toxie's sidekick, and the Lard Ass. And Joe Flyshaker told me that when he loses 350 pounds, which will be about half his weight, he wants to be known as Half Ass. And I don't know if he's on Twitter or anything, but if anybody has any messages for him, just send them to my Twitter at Lloyd Kaufman, and I will email them to Joe Flyshaker. I know he has a lot of fans, and he's a great guy.
And he was Troma's action star, and probably forever will be known as Troma's action star.
He is. He indeed is. He is our Vin Diesel.
And so, are there any last words or anything you would like to promote before I end this interview?
Well, certainly I thank Michael Hers, and I thank our fans so much for supporting us for the 40 years. We're going to be putting up a Kickstarter campaign to try to raise money so we can finish Volume 2 of Return to Nukem High. We haven't announced this yet, but you should know it. It would be great if our fans can keep an eye out for that. And if our fans are not on... if they don't follow me on Twitter, that would be... I answer all my Twitters myself. I don't do a lot on Facebook, although I'm there and I do post things on Facebook, but I don't answer things. But on Twitter, I do answer a bit on Facebook, but I answer every Twitter message. So if you want to contact me, at Lloyd, LLOYD, KAUFMAN. And also I've got a fan site, lloydkaufman.com. And if that they forward me messages. The Troma site does not forward me message, I don't think. But the Troma site, these are all places you can get information. Troma.com and Troma's Facebook. And if you want to see 250 free movies, go to Troma YouTube movie channel, Troma Movies. That's the name of the channel on YouTube. You get about 250 free movies, cartoons, short pieces, make your own damn movie lessons, and of course, lots of interpretive dancing by Uncle Lloydie.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day and doing this interview with me.
Well, thanks, Jerry. I hope you'll let me know when you run it. We'll put it up on all the various. We get about 500,000 people a month who go to our various sites, so hopefully they will really be interested to hear this incredibly incisive, penetrating, and incredibly moving interview. Unfortunately, it's a bowel-moving interview, but that's okay. We want to be regular.